If horsepower had a Hall of Fame, these cars would rule the entire list. Muscle cars are more than just machines, they're symbols of power, freedom, and pure adrenaline. Today we're counting down the top 10 greatest muscle cars of all time. Watch till the end and let us know your dream muscle car in the comments. Let's start. Number 10. Buick GSX Stage 1, 1970. Most people forget about the Buick in a muscle car conversation. That's exactly why it opens this list. The 1970 GSX Stage 1 came with a 455 cubic inch V8 that Buick quietly underrated at 360 horsepower because insurance companies were watching. Real-world output was significantly higher. It could pull 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds, which in 1970 was genuinely shocking for a street car. It came in two colors, Saturn Yellow and Apollo White. Loud, fast, and completely underestimated. Buick never got the credit it deserved for this one. Speaking of overlooked, the next car on this list was almost killed before it launched and became one of the most beloved nameplates in American history. Number 9. Pontiac GTO, 1964. The car that started the muscle car era as we know it. John DeLorean and a small team at Pontiac essentially snuck the GTO into production by stuffing a 389 cubic inch V8 into a mid-sized Tempest body, something GM's management had actually prohibited. It wasn't supposed to exist. And when it launched in 1964, it sold over 32,000 units in its first year. Car and Driver called it the closest thing to a race car on the street. The GTO didn't just sell well, it created an entire segment. Every car on this list owes something to the GOAT. From the car that started it all, to the machine that defined an entire decade. Number 8. Plymouth Roadrunner. 1968, Plymouth looked at the muscle car market in 1968 and decided everyone was overcomplicating it. Strip the luxury, strip the options, keep the big engine, and keep the price under $3,000. That was the Roadrunner's entire philosophy. It came with a 383 V8, a horn that actually beeped like the cartoon character, and absolutely zero pretense. It sold 44,000 units in its first year, double what Plymouth projected. Working-class guys who couldn't afford a Corvette could afford this. That's not a small thing. That's legacy. Now we're getting into territory where the names alone make car guys go quiet. Number 7. Ford Mustang Boss 429, 1969. Ford built the Boss 429 for one reason. NASCAR homologation rules required them to sell 500 street versions to race it on the track. They ended up building nearly 3,600. Lucky for us, the 429 cubic inch engine was so wide it required major modifications to fit in the Mustang's engine bay. The battery had to be relocated to the trunk. It produced 375 horsepower officially, but that number was laughably conservative. This engine was designed to survive 500 miles at full throttle. On the street, it was practically untouchable. The Boss 429 is what happens when racing engineers are let loose on a production car. That's Ford's masterpiece. But Chevrolet had something in the garage that would challenge it directly and win a lot of arguments. Number 6. Chevrolet Camaro Z28, 1969. The Z28 was also born from racing rules. SCCA Trans Am regulations required a 305 cubic inch displacement limit. So Chevy built a special small block, the 302, that revved higher and harder than anything on the street at the time. The 1969 Z/28 officially made 290 horsepower. Nobody believed that number then, and nobody believes it now. It was light, aggressive, balanced, and it handled in a way that most American muscle cars of the era simply didn't. While other cars went straight fast, the Z28 could actually corner. That made it dangerous in a completely different way. Cornering ability is impressive, but there's one moper on this list that didn't care about corners. It just wanted to go faster in a straight line than anything you'd ever seen. Number 5. Dodge Charger RT, 1969. This is the car, the one people picture when they close their eyes and think muscle car. The 1969 Charger was already stunning to look at. That fastback roofline, the full-width tail lights, the hidden headlamps. But under the hood, you could order the 440 Magnum or the legendary 426 Hemi. The Hemi option produced 425 horsepower. The actual number was higher. It weighed over 2 tons and could still crack the quarter mile in the low 13s. Steve McQueen drove against one in Bullitt. The Charger won most of that chase. 55 years later, it still looks like it was designed last week. The Charger is iconic, but the next car made it look almost ordinary. Number 4, Dodge Challenger TA, 1971 year. That's all Dodge made, the Challenger TA, and it was enough to make it immortal. Built to compete in SCCA Trans Am racing, the TA came with a 340 cubic inch small block fitted with 3 2-barrel carburetors, a setup called the six-pack. It made 290 horsepower officially, but the real figure was comfortably north of that. Side exhaust pipes, a flat black hood with a functional scoop, and a suspension tuned for actual handling. Only 2,399 were ever built. Scarcity plus performance plus jaw-dropping looks. That's the formula for a collector car that never stops climbing in value. Scarcity makes things valuable. But what makes the next car legendary is that it was never rare. It was everywhere, and it was still faster than almost everything. Number 3, Chevrolet Chevelle SS 454 LS6, 1970. The LS6 is widely considered the most powerful factory muscle car engine ever put into a production street car, at least in the classic era. 450 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque in a mid-size car. The 1970 Chevelle SS 454 with the LS6 option was not subtle about what it was. It ran the quarter mile in the high 13-second range with a stock exhaust and street tires. Road Test magazine called it the fastest American production car they had ever tested. GM pulled the LS6 option after 1970 due to insurance pressure. That 1 year of availability makes a genuine LS6 car one of the most sought-after muscle cars on the planet today. Power gets you on this list, but power plus heartbreak is what gets you to number 2. Number 2, Plymouth Barracuda, Cuda 426 Hemi in 1970. The Cuda is the car that muscle car collectors lose sleep over. A 1970 Hemi Cuda convertible sold at Barrett-Jackson for $3.5 million. The coupe version commands similar numbers when one surfaces. Only 652 Hemi Cuda coupes were built in 1970. Only 14 convertibles. The 426 Hemi produced 425 horsepower, the same underrated figure as the Charger, in a car that weighed significantly less. It was vicious. It was beautiful. And then 1971 came. Compression ratios dropped across the industry, insurance rates strangled performance options, and the muscle car era began its slow collapse. The Cuda feels like the last full breath before everything changed. That emotional weight is part of what makes it extraordinary. And at number 1, the car that has been at the top of nearly every serious muscle car conversation for over 50 years. Number 1, Ford Shelby GT500, 1967. Carroll Shelby took a Mustang fastback, dropped in a side oiler 428 cubic inch V8, added a Paxton supercharger on the prototype, and built something Ford's own engineers said was too fast for the street. The 1967 GT500 officially produced 355 horsepower. That number was so far from reality that even automotive journalists at the time said so openly. Tested figures put real output closer to 400 horsepower, sometimes higher depending on the build. It was brutal to drive hard, unforgiving, and completely intoxicating. But beyond the numbers, this car represents the single greatest collaboration between a factory and an independent builder in American automotive history. Shelby wasn't just tuning Mustangs, he was creating mythology. The GT500 is the purest expression of what the muscle car era was actually about. Obsession, ambition, and an almost reckless pursuit of performance. Every one of these cars carries a story that goes beyond horsepower and quarter-mile times. They were built during a specific, unrepeatable window in American history When fuel was cheap, rules were loose, and engineers were given room to do something reckless and wonderful. We'll never see that era again, but we'll never stop talking about it either. If this list fired you up or made you furious, smash that like button, subscribe for more deep dive car content, and tell me in the comments which car belongs on this list that I left off.